1939, the guns of the tyrant Adolf Hitler's Greater Third Reich were turned against Poland. On April 9th, 1940, the swastika flew for the first time from the flagpoles of Norway and Denmark. A month later, the Huns moved on the Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg. On May 14th, they occupied Amsterdam. 3 days later, the city of Brussels fell. Its heroic soldiers, outnumbered 10 to 1, and totally unprepared for the treacherous attack launched against them and their city, were forced to surrender. Finally, on June 14th, 1940, in less than 9 months of actual warfare, Hitler's most cherished goal was achieved: the surrender of Paris. It was probably the greatest single moment of his life when the armies of the Third Reich goose-stepped before him, goose-stepped down the world-famous Champs-Élysées, Paris. Beautiful Paris, city of infinite delight and beauty, the heart and soul of France. In less than 9 months of vassal state, its people policed by foreign gangsters, its streets resounding to the tramp of a mobster army, its government a puppet of the Third Reich. In 9 months, Hitler shouted to the world that it was the might and power of the invincible German army that brought about the subjugation of the French. But we know now that was not true. We know now that the battle for Paris started in 1933. And the weapons that brought about its fall were not Hitler's guns and tanks and marching men, nor his fleet of ships that moved against its ports. No, the weapons that destroyed France, that undermined Holland and Belgium and brought about the subjugation of Norway and Denmark, were much more subtle, more cunning, and more deadly than any forged in the furnaces of a munitions factory. The real weapons were words. Words ground out in the big stone building that houses rat-like Paul Joseph Goebbels and his vicious Ministry of Propaganda. Words, written words, spoken words, shouted words, and whispered words. Words preaching hate and distrust and dissension. Words that had their origin in little rooms like these.
Mental confusion, indecisiveness, panic. These are our weapons. They won for us in the Sudetenland. They undermined the will and strength of the people of Poland. They made easier the subjection of Belgium and the Netherlands. People are like sheep. Words terrorize them more than the sound of guns. And to pave the way for our armies, make the people first of all distrust their leaders and fear us. Make them believe they are helpless against us, that we are invincible. Broadcast to every part of France, every village and hamlet. Breed fear and distrust and terror.
People of France, take heed. Do not believe the lies of your government. Hitler comes to you as your friend. The common people of all the world are to him as his children, and his only wish is to save you. But if you continue to believe the lies and promises of your government, Hitler must come with fire and sword, with all the strength and power of his invincible armies. And France is doomed, and you are doomed.
And in another room...
And you will go into Paris as taxi cab drivers, waitresses, tourists, businessmen, men of religion, teachers, professional men, beauty parlor operators, actresses, astrologists. And always you will talk, talk, talk. Sow the seeds of distrust and of fear. Make men question. Make them hate.
Yes, it's true. And if I dared to tell you who has told me, then you would believe. Hitler has a secret weapon that will destroy Paris in 2 minutes if our government refuses to surrender. And this person who has told me has it on reliable authority. But they say in Berlin, it is so terrible that Hitler himself is even afraid to use it. As for me, I'd rather France surrendered than to see my beloved Paris destroyed.
This war, it is terrible.
And for what? To save democracy, they tell us. I heard only today that the Minister of the Interior of France himself had...
It is here in the crystal, plain to see. So long as our government persists in this suicidal resistance to Hitler, there is no hope for France.
Unless we make terms with him, France is doomed.
Labor is to blame!
Capital is to blame.
The church is to blame!
Democracy is to blame.
The government is to blame! The church!
The government.
Labor!
Capital. Democracy.
And so it went. Group was aroused against group, class against class, the people against their governments and their churches and their faiths. And across the face of Europe this poison spread, eating at the very core of government, at the heart of the military, sapping the strength and courage of the people, undermining civilian and army morale. These are the weapons that cleared the barren fields of Norway for the landing of German parachute troops. These the weapons that brought about the destruction of Le Havre and the burning of Sedan, and left the highways untouched by the rain of bombs, though tanks and trucks lay upturned on the roadside, that left the bridges of Holland still spanning its canals, waiting for the armies of the Nazi vandals to cross to victory, to bring Hitler closer, ever closer to Paris.
Now, this is the gospel you will preach to generals, cabinet ministers, statesmen, soldiers, and financiers alike. Hitler is smart, he is clever, he is brilliant. Different words, perhaps, but always the same tune. With our Führer victorious, Europe will be a better place to live in. With the German Reich dominating the economic and political policies of Europe, there will be wealth for all, and there will be peace. And warn them, too. There will be no room in southeastern Europe for those who refuse to cooperate with the German Reich. The smart man knows when it is time to climb on the right bandwagon. France is doomed unless she accepts Hitler's terms.
This is the gospel of defeatism that sold out France, that cost them the Maginot Line, that brought disgrace to Verdun, the city sacred to the memory of the heroes of the First World War.
My son. My son. He's dead. Dead. And thousands like him lie dead in the battlefield. Boys who never had a chance. They are being slaughtered like pigs. What chance have they against the Germans? It's murder. That's what it is, murder!
Many scenes like this that were actually framed and staged by Hitler's agents to instill in the hearts of the people resentment, and doubt, and fear. It's too bad that there was no one in this crowd to answer that woman before her question had left its mark on their minds. Too bad there was no one to cry out the cruel, vicious history of Hitler's Gestapo, of his tyranny and oppression and domination of all free peoples everywhere, and his ruthless and treacherous march of conquest. For it is the doubt and resentment and fear instilled by his merciless barrage of propaganda that left Reims in ruins and destroyed Laon and brought Hitler's army within 75 kilometers of Paris. It is words and scenes such as these that fooled, betrayed, and sold out the people of France and brought the armies of the Huns to the very gates and heart of Paris, and raised the hated swastika on the Eiffel Tower. Hitler sowed his seeds of terror and defeatism, and France has reaped the harvest. And now German soldiers march through Domremy, home of Joan of Arc. A German plane lands on the boulevards of Paris. German hoodlums loot the halls of beautiful Versailles and swagger along the Place de la Concorde, the Arc de Triomphe and the Trocadero, Napoleon's tomb and the Napoleonic obelisk. Historic monuments, all of them, and now in German hands. In the shadow of the Eiffel Tower, the first German newspaper is printed. But no foreign news is in that paper. Oh, no, Hitler's not such a fool as that. For no word, no hint of truth must reach the French people or any of the people in his conquered countries. Hitler is afraid of the truth. It might destroy him. In France, the people smuggle in little sentences of truth from the outside world. The truth printed on bits of paper passed secretly from hand to hand until the paper becomes worn so thin it's barely possible to read the words. Only Hitler could have conceived the final blow to the pride of France. The humiliating terms under which he demanded his peace settlement. It was to be signed at Compiègne in Marshal Foch's private car, the same car in which the peace of 1918 was signed. Hitler arrogantly arrives first, while Hunzinger and his aides follow meekly after. The Germans stand in mock courtesy while Hunzinger enters. And when negotiations are completed, Hunzinger leaves to inform his government in Bordeaux of the German demands. And Hitler to review his troops on the Champs-Élysées. Herr Hitler has his hour of triumph. Propaganda, threats, intimidation, force, all the gangster methods that his evil mind has devised have brought about his goal, the surrender of Paris. But let no one think that with this victory his machinery of propaganda ceases. It's only just begun. There are other fronts now, and from Pearl Harbor to New York City, from the last outpost of Canada to the Bay of Rio de Janeiro, Hitler's agents are busy spreading the lies of the Huns.
Another month and the Japs will be marching right into Los Angeles.
Baloney, buddy. We're wise to that kind of talk. If you ask me, I'll tell you where them Japs are marching to. They're marching straight into...
You know what I just heard? The Russians are going to sign a pact with the Japs. They're selling out the United Nations.
Listen, lady, who's been feeding you that double talk? If you believe it, you're crazy. Go ahead, move on. Go peddle that stuff someplace else. Otherwise, I'm going to forget you are a lady.
Why, we're not prepared to defend the Pacific.
If you believe that, you believe in lies. My son's out there somewhere in that Pacific, and so long as he's there and thousands like him fighting side by side, the Pacific will be defended.
And on it goes, the same old routine.
And I'm telling you, London dictates to Washington, and Churchill's taking Roosevelt for a ride.
And in London...
I tell you that the British Empire is dissolving like a lump of sugar in Roosevelt's tea.
The same old squeeze play, trying to pit ally against ally. The same gigantic campaign of words. Words poured into every channel that will reach the American people and destroy our national unity. Everywhere his propaganda is voiced. In the subways, on the streets, in the restaurants, everywhere the lies of the monster of Berlin are whispered into the ears of the gullible. But there are not many of them here, for before us is the truth. Our government will tell its people the truth. Hitler cannot. One word of truth and he's lost. But here we are armed with truth. Our president has seen to that. Unlike the peoples of Europe, we are not frightened, nor hysterical, nor confused. Every state in the Union, every race, color, and creed has geared itself to this war against intolerance and slavery and evil. We have faith, and faith than any army. Hitler's lies, the propaganda, and his strategy of gangsterism are wasted here. He's overplayed his hand at last. You are up to his tricks. You can see through his technique. The upraised arm, the shouting voice, the mighty bluster are empty for you of terror or of dread. For behind you is the voice of truth. And we are entrenched within the shelter of our faith and the belief in our God that weapons of fear and of terror and hate are only a challenge to our strength and courage. For you in America are free, and you will fight to remain free. And you will win that fight, let no man doubt. You will win that fight.